Welcome to week one of the 2023 season, and Bills by the Numbers. We're presented by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Coming up, it's time to handicap the AFC East. How will the pecking order play out when all is said and done in January? We catch up with Jets senior reporter Eric Allen for a different perspective on the division and what we might be missing on the Jets. And we have our high-low picks of the week. Put the ball on the tee! We are here, and it is time. The 2023 regular season and another run at the ultimate prize here on Bills by the Numbers. Bills Wall of Famer Steve Tasker, Bills insider Chris Brown with you. And we will discuss the week one matchup on Monday night a bit later, but there have been a multitude of predictions and prognostications on how this AFC East division will play out, and some have appeared haphazard and off the wall. So, Steve, we'll begin with the following question. Do you believe the Bills are still the class of the division?
Absolutely, because they've got more proven than the other two teams do. Miami certainly has some things to do, some question marks. The Jets, while they are a good roster, absolutely a good roster, and have every reason to have high expectations, and the hype train is running full steam ahead. Mm-hmm. We'll see. I don't think there's any question the Jets have closed the gap, particularly over the last 2 years. Robert Saleh is a quality head coach. I think he's doing all the right things. Their roster has been beefed up. Their draft picks, they've hit on a handful of high draft picks, and they're quality players. Aaron Rodgers in the building obviously raises the level. Mm-hmm. But we got to see. We have to see. They haven't done anything yet. So until something else happens, the Bills are the class of the division.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I think Miami made a nice jump last year. Mike McDaniel, the new head coach, did a lot of good things for them on the offensive side of the ball. Tua's health obviously has a lot to do with where their season is going to go. But, Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator is a strong addition. And, they've tried to fix some of their holes on defense, which we can get to in a little bit. And, the Jets, with the quarterback have done some good things, and they've done a lot to prop up that quarterback with some of the additions on the offensive side of the ball, with whom he is familiar with from his days in Green Bay, from Allen Lazard to Randall Cobb to Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator. So they're to me, the Jets are all in this year because this is year 3 for Robert Saleh. They don't make the playoffs. His job could be on the line. I don't think he would get canned, but depending on how it looks, if they're 8-9 and don't get in,
certainly it's not just a bottom line, but they do have to look differently than they have.
Yeah, right.
He has done some good things as their coach. Now, last year, I don't know who called the Zach Wilson pick, but he can't play. And that crushed him. Everybody else, he had the entire team going well. They split with the Buffalo Bills with Zach Wilson at quarterback. That in and of itself, now certainly the Bills gave him some help in that game that they split with, but it counts.
Well, yeah.
You got to give him as much credit as you do blame. But it isn't just a bottom line, but I don't think there's any question. The basis is that the Jets got to get in as at least a wild card team in the AFC.
Because the miss on Zach Wilson was just a life-sucking force, and proof of that was the Jets losing their last 6 games of the season.
Right.
They just knew they could not score points, and their margin of error was down
too small.
Yeah, it was too small each and every week. Who do you believe is the biggest threat to unseat the Bills as 3-time division champions, if you had to pick a team?
Yeah, it's the Jets. There's no question about it. They've got so much talent, and I think they have really closed the gap. I think this game on Monday night in week 1 for the Bills-Jets on Monday night, I think it's going to be the game of the week. Now, there's some other great matchups and stuff, but I think this could be the most difficult matchup for the Bills all year.
Because you saw that it was last year because of their offense?
The quality of the roster and the lack of answers and scouting ability for so many new things that are going to be available to the Jets offense. All of that stuff going into that. The Bills go in there kind of with a blindfold on. Mm-hmm. And that's, to me, tough to prepare for, plus the environment and all of that.
Right. That does cut both ways, though. I mean, there are some elements of the Bills' offense and defense that will be different and unscouted for the Jets. That's an unknown for them. So it does cut both ways, but I would tend to agree with you. I would probably tab the Jets as the biggest threat to unseat the Bills as division champs. And I don't know. The reason why I don't see it happening, and obviously we're not factoring in variables like major injuries and things of that sort, the reason I don't think it's going to happen is because personally I believe Sean McDermott is a better coach than Robert Saleh. I don't have any problem with Robert Saleh. I think he's the best head coaching hire that the Jets have made since Herm Edwards.
Right.
Like, it's been a long time since they've had a quality head coach, and I believe Saleh offers that. But I don't know what it is. I just think there's something missing there that Saleh does not have, that Sean McDermott does. And we saw in this division for a long time with Bill Belichick. Belichick, even when his team was not perfect, was good for 2 extra wins for his team a season, in my estimation. Sure. I think McDermott is that for the Bills. If there is like some little thing that might not come together in the way they anticipate, I think there are some things that McDermott can do that would account for them to get by in a game or win an extra 1 or 2 regular season games, and that can be the difference this year in taking the division for a 4th straight season.
An old coach that I played for, Marv Levy, said this: the difference between the worst team in the NFL and the best team is maybe 2%. But he always put it like this: he goes, that 2% is 100% of the difference. And you got to
Marv math.
There's a lot in there, and slight discrepancies in head coach and quarterbacks, in the differences of your team, make all the difference on a week-to-week matchup.
Okay, so who would be your dark horse pick to surprise people and maybe not win the division, but at least push for a playoff spot and make other teams in this division sweat?
Well, I think the Jets and the Bills are the elite, and then it goes. Then it's Miami, then it's Patriots. Although I think the Patriots are going to be markedly improved this year, markedly improved. I think I can't pick them to make the playoffs because of the Bills and the Jets and the Dolphins and because of the difficulty of the division. But I think that the Patriots are going to take a step forward this year, and they'll be in the wild card conversation until late in the season.
Okay. I kind of lean towards Miami here. I think Miami has been pushed aside by the Aaron Rodgers solar eclipse of the division. I mean, he's blocking out the sun. He's been such a giant story that the Dolphins have kind of been pushed over here, and even to a certain extent, the Bills have been considered yesterday's news. But I think, and again, a lot of this hinges on Tua's health, but if Tua stays healthy, I mean, the Dolphins last year were one of the highest efficiency offenses in football for a stretch there. They have a tough schedule along with every other team in the AFC East this year. But Tua able to play 15, 16 games, I think they could – I could see a path to 3 playoff teams from the AFC East this season. I can at least see a path there. Certain things have to fall into place, but I could see a path there. So that's why I think Miami is kind of a dark horse pick to surprise some people and maybe get to 10, maybe 11 wins. I don't think it's outlandish to think that that's at least possible. You kind of touched on it already, Steve. Are the Patriots an also-ran in this division or something more?
In the division, I think they're an also-ran, but I think there's something more when you spread it out over the course of the conference and their 17-game schedule. They're going to be able to compete, and I think they'll probably go 9-7. I think, or
9-8.
9-8. Or 8-9. They'll be right there. And I think they're going to be competitive throughout, as they always are. They're a tough out. They're in that way, the Bills are like them, they're like the Bills. You may beat them, but you don't run off and leave them. Now, the Bills had that game a few years ago where they ran in the perfect game, the perfect storm game. But most of their games are like the win game, where in a vacuum, they don't have a chance to compete with that Bills team, and yet they find a way. That's what they do. Bill O'Brien's going to give them some semblance of stability offensively and it'll raise their point production, and that's going to help them. So I don't think they're going to win this division. I don't think they can make it as a wild card, but I do think they're going to be competitive deep into the season and be in that conversation.
Yeah,
like I said.
I think in 2020, the Patriots were in a place where they were outclassed by teams like Buffalo, and maybe even 2021, they were outclassed by teams like Buffalo, although they split the division series. I think they're inching their way back to respectability. I think their defense is underrated. I still think their offense is going to be a heavy lift. Bill O'Brien helps, I agree, but the receiving targets, they're counting on a lot of guys to have big seasons that have never really done that before.
Right.
And so that's a big, giant question mark that carries through the entire receiving core.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big ask and puts a lot of the burden, and maybe more than they'd like, on Mac Jones. I mean, I know Ramondre Stevenson is capable of pulling some of that burden off of him, but when push comes to shove, your quarterback has to make plays to pull out games for you, and I just don't know that he has the receiving core to help him do that.
The Patriots pick guys who are smart and tough, not with physical gifts. And I just don't think they have enough physical talent to do it on a week-to-week basis. Their coaching staff does the better job than anybody else of having them in the perfect defense and the perfect play offensively. They do a great job of preparation and all that, but when push comes to shove, sooner or later you got to win a one-on-one matchup, and they don't have enough of those guys.
Okay, so once and for all, stack your AFC East for me in terms of how you think it will finish come January.
I think it's Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, and maybe Patriots, Dolphins. I just don't think the Dolphins are going to be able to do it for 17 weeks.
What makes you feel like they're not going to hold up?
Tua, I think the fact that Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are still a force to be reckoned with. But they lost Gesicki.
Jalen Ramsey's not playing until December.
And Vic Fangio's going to be okay, but he's only got so much to work with over there. I seriously don't think. I think their offensive line is going to be a question mark. So I just don't think they have the horses, and I think the Patriots in the division could nick them twice, given the way that matchup goes. I think Mike McDaniel is going to take a step back from the quality and the efficiency they had last year offensively. I don't think they'll be able to duplicate that for a long, extended period of time. They may. But I think it's right there with the Patriots.
I get the sense you feel like defensive coordinators have a bead on what McDaniel does now, and it might not be quite as successful as it was last year.
I do, and I think the fact that they get into a game with Cincinnati and they're chasing Tua around a little bit. Tua goes down. The next. I just think there's going to be some things that you can do against that. That I think defensive coordinator is going to take a step forward against McDaniel's offense. Okay. So I think it's Bills, Jets, and then it's the two of them, the Patriots, Dolphins.
You could flip-flop either one.
I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah.
As it may be a coin flip between the Bills, Jets. This game, they are good. Both those teams are heavyweights, and they both should be in the tournament at the end of the year. But right now, the Bills have proven more than that Jet offense has.
Yeah. I'm still going Bills as division winners. I just think there's so much continuity there, and I think the fact that many of the players on the Jets roster have not been in high-stakes primetime games as they will be this year. The quarterback certainly has, and maybe that carries them. But now you're expected to win. How do you handle that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm very curious to see how that team's psyche works through this season. They're certainly talented enough. I want to see how their psyche works through the course of this season when they are expected to be a playoff team. It's playoffs or bust and all of that stuff. The Dolphins have found a way each and every year to kind of stub their toe and have a stretch where they're just not playing well. Part of it's due to injury in the past, but I'm curious to see if the Dolphins can overcome the adversity bug, because when adversity strikes them, they don't respond. I don't know what it is. And it's crossed over multiple coaches over the last several years. They get smacked in the face by adversity, and they don't rebound. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's why I've got them in third. And I just don't know that the Patriots are going to be able to offer enough God-given talent to match with their football smarts and IQ and scheme to pull out enough games. So I happily stick the Patriots in the basement of the AFC East. So
Right.
for me, it's kind of the same as what you initially said. It's Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, and I have no problem if it finishes up that way. For more on the Bills' Week 1 matchup, we get the Jets' perspective from New York Jets senior reporter for NewYorkJets.com. It's Eric Allen. All right, Eric, the Jets hype train is rolling in at top speed here into Week 1. I know that you're familiar with this, but when New York fans feel they have a winner on their hands, the atmosphere in the arena, the stadium, whatever it might be, is markedly different. The Bills players have not experienced that. How intimidating can that get for a visiting team?
Brownie and Steve, great seeing you guys. I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere Monday night. You're talking about the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. You're talking about a team who took steps forward last year, one of the top young rosters in the National Football League, and then they go out and add a surefire future Hall of Famer and Aaron Rodgers, a 4-time NFL MVP, and you're pairing him up with a very good defense. Then you add into the equation the Buffalo Bills are coming into town, and the Bills have owned the division the last 3 years. I think it is going to be a wild scene. It's going to be electric. And I think for Jets fans, they've circled September 11th on the calendar since the schedule came out.
And we've seen it too. It was a dogfight in the two games the teams played last year. The Jets split with the Bills. We've seen it before as well over the years. Brady goes from New England to Tampa Bay. Joe Montana from the Niners to the Kansas City Chiefs. Matt Stafford from the Lions to the Rams. Back in the day, it was Joe Namath going from the Jets out to L.A. Is it going to be that easy to unplug Zach Wilson, plug Aaron Rodgers in, and let's go?
I don't think anything's going to be easy, and Aaron Rodgers knows that. But what the Jets have going for them, Steve, is you're pairing him up with an offensive coordinator that he flourished with in Green Bay, Nathaniel Hackett. So he enters here as essentially a player coach. And there are weapons on the offensive side of the ball. If you look at the Jets last year, no doubt about it, fourth in scoring defense, I think. But conversely, they were 29th in scoring offense. You add to the equation a guy in Rodgers who's number one in NFL history in touchdown to interception ratio. He automatically is going to make you a competent offense. And I talk about, hey, the pieces around him, in front of him, Elijah Vera Tucker, one of the most talented young lineman in the National Football League. Garrett Wilson was Offensive Rookie of the Year on the outside last year. He had 1,100 yards receiving despite playing with 4 different quarterbacks. Breece Hall making his way back from the ACL injury. He averaged 6.9 yards a touch last year. And then Dalvin Cook was a recent add in August. And here's a guy, the past 4 seasons in Minnesota, averaged more than 1,300 yards from scrimmage. So the Jets do have offensive pieces in place. But with that being said, those guys have to learn Rodgers. The Alan Lazards, the Randall Cobbs, okay, those guys have played with him before. But there is going to be a process. And where you guys have to circle as far as the Jets on the offensive side of the ball is, how is that offensive line going to perform early in the season? Because they haven't taken a lot of practice reps. I'm not even talking about game reps. They haven't taken a lot of practice reps together yet.
The pass rush is, notable. It's probably the biggest thing the Bills have to game plan for concerning the Jets. And as you know, they can come at any team in waves, going 8-9 deep there. I know there's been a couple of changes. Sheldon Rankins isn't there anymore on the inside. They got Quentin Jefferson, who actually played a season up here in Buffalo a little while ago. But just being able to roll in first-round draft choices on the edges as second-wave guys, I mean, there's no drop-off here it seems, with the 8 deep that the Jets have on their defensive front.
Brownie, it's crazy. Quinnen Williams signed that extension in the offseason. He's a beast on the interior. He had 12 sacks last season. You mentioned, okay, there's a little bit of change next to him. The Jets signed a couple of veterans. You mentioned Quentin Jefferson, but Al Woods here as well. The other thing you have going for you is John Franklin Myers, an underrated player on the edge. He can shift inside and then take care of the guards in those sub packages. Michael Clemens is another guy who's a 4th-round pick last year who can do the same thing. But you're talking about edges. Carl Lawson came back from Achilles last season, fellas, and he had 7 sacks. John Franklin Myers, like I mentioned before, he's a versatile player. You take Will McDonald, who had 34 sacks at Iowa State last year in the 1st round, number 15 overall. And oh, by the way, you have Jermaine Johnson, a 1st-round pick last year, who has had an incredible summer. And the Jets love what he brings, not only from a pass rush perspective, but against the run. He's a guy to keep your eyes out on. And then finally, Bryce Huff. He's a guy that they rotate in. He's so explosive off the edge. So the Jets are going to come at you in waves this year. And with Aaron Rodgers, the hope here inside One Jets Drive is you're going to be playing with a lot of leads in the second half, and you can really tee off.
And the only thing that has maybe taken the shine off of the hype train has been some of the problems and questions about their offensive line. You mentioned it earlier. They haven't had many practice reps. Of course, Dwayne Brown doesn't need that many practice reps. That guy is going to show up to, even if he's wounded, he's going to show up and strap it on for the Jets. The other question mark at the other tackle, maybe Mekhi Becton. They're dependent on a guy who has been pretty undependable thus far in his career. And how about the other guys down inside, Connor McGovern, Elijah Vera Tucker, Laken Tomlinson, those guys? Give us a rundown on the prospects of those guys.
Yeah, Steve. From the get here this summer, the Jets felt pretty good about the interior. Connor McGovern re-signed. The Jets also took Joe Tippmann in the 2nd round, but he's going to start the year as a valuable reserve. He also got some snaps as far as playing the guard position this summer. Elijah Vera Tucker, he proved his versatility and his worth last season before going out week 7 against the Broncos. He's a guy who can play anywhere, but the Jets want to keep him at right guard. Laken Tomlinson is a guy who's entering his 2nd year here with the Jets. So the Jets felt pretty good about the interior from the get. The tackle position, Dwayne Brown, essentially, after missing 4 games last season to start the year, he could have had surgery and sat on the shelf last year. Instead, he played essentially an entire year with one arm. 12 games. So he comes off the offseason surgery. He looks to be in great shape. He told me the other day he's more excited for this season than any of his previous 16 seasons in the National Football League. He'll be playing left tackle. And Mekhi Becton is a guy who gradually got better throughout the summer. He came to camp in much better shape. He weighed 350 pounds at the start of camp, and you saw his confidence continue to increase. The Jets originally, Steve, when they drafted Mekhi, we're thinking, well, maybe this guy's your left tackle for the next 10 years. Where it's funny, it's ironic kind of, where the Jets were thinking maybe it's Elijah Vera Tucker at left guard and Mekhi Becton at left tackle. Now they're going to open up this year AVT at right guard, Becton at right tackle. Where you have to watch Becton is he got the snaps in the preseason, but he is yet to play a full game. This will be his first full game since going back to his rookie season. Essentially, he did not play the last 2 years.
Right.
All right, so Eric, before we let you go, give us your AFC East stack. Like, how's it going to shake out in January? We know there's a multitude of variables, and, we know there might be a little bias here, and that's okay. I mean, the Jets are probably one of the 5 best rosters in football right now. So how do you see this division stacking up top to bottom?
Bronny, I totally agree with you as far as the Jets being one of the top 5 rosters in the National Football League. The AFC is loaded. The AFC East is going to be very good this year, and you guys know that. Miami made waves last year in Mike McDaniel's first year as head coach there, and they do have weapons. I kind of think the division is ultimately going to come down to between the Bills and the New York Jets. I think the Jets are a playoff team. You talk about being a top 5 roster. Are they going to win the division? We'll have to see how that all plays out. I know New England is going to be tough defensively. I know they brought back their former offensive coordinator this year. I don't know if I'm going to put New England in the same kind of level or stratosphere as these other 3. I kind of think right now, would I be surprised if there were 3 teams from the AFC East making the playoffs? No. But for my money, I think it's going to be the Jets and the Bills in the playoffs in 2023.
Eric, good stuff. Thanks for coming on with us. I appreciate you.
Thanks, fellas. Great seeing you.
Important to tell you that we are presented here on Bills by the Numbers by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Now is the perfect time to join FanDuel. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So download the app today and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the Buffalo Bills. 21 plus, physically present in New York, first online, real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Steve, we move on to the numbers game, where Steve will be quizzed on AFC East division history. Are you ready, Mr. Tasker?
Let's go.
All right, question number 1. Can you name me the order of finish for the AFC East last season?
Okay. Bills,
Correct.
Dolphins,
Yes.
Patriots, Jets.
You got it, Steve. Well done. Yeah, Patriots and Dolphins. Patriots just missed the playoffs. Dolphins obviously got in on the wild card and then lost to the Bills in that matchup here in Buffalo last January. All right, question number 2. Over the last 10 seasons, 2013 to 2022, how many AFC East teams have won division titles over the last 10 years?
2.
That is correct.
Bills, Patriots.
That's right. Bills
Yeah.
with 3, Patriots with 7.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right, question number 3. Steve Tasker's on a roll. Over the last 10 seasons, which AFC East team has the most last place finishes?
I will say your New York Jets.
And you would be correct.
That's right. I'm on the rope. Let's go.
Let's
Come
see
on.
if you can make it
Come
a
on,
sweep,
man.
Steve.
Come on.
Let's see if you can make it a sweep. Question 4. How many last place finishes have the Jets had since 2013 in the AFC East?
I'll say. Oh, man.
Come on, you got this. You got this for the sweep of the numbers game.
I'll say the Patriots had 7.
The Patriots
Titles.
had 7 division
So the
titles in the
team-
last 10 years.
The
Bills
Jets
had
can't
3.
have as many last place finishes as the Patriots have first place finishes, can they? I'll say the Jets have had 6 last place finishes.
Oh! So close! It was 7!
Oh no!
It was 7! You
talked
talked yourself out of it! No!
I had it
So close to
right
the
there.
sweep.
It was right there.
It was right there. The Jets with 7
I hate
last
myself.
place finishes since 2013. The Dolphins had 2 others, and the Bills had 1 all the way back in 2013, I want to say, if I remember right. So that is the numbers game. Still a good showing there by one Stephen A. Tasker. The elusive sweep of the numbers game is still out there for Steve. We'll try again.
Right there.
You were right there. We now bring back one of the more entertaining free-to-play games on FanDuel.com called High-Low. Steve and I pick NFL teams and players from a bunch of statistical categories that we believe will finish with the highest or the lowest total in the league that week for that stat. Steve, kick us off with the high this week for points.
All right, for high this week in points, I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence and the crew are facing the Colts, who no longer have Yannick Ngakoue coming off the edge. Indy was 28th in the league in points allowed last year, and they still stink. So I'm taking the Jags for points.
All right, fair enough. Low for points, I'm taking the layup here. The Arizona Cardinals with Josh Dobbs starting at quarterback, who just got there 3 weeks ago. This is a heavy lift against the Washington Commanders pass rush with all the first-round picks they've got up front, including Chase Young, who's fully healthy now. Cardinals low for points. Steve, which player do you have running wild this week on rushing yards?
I'm going for the fresh legs. High for rushing yards, I got the rookie in Atlanta, Bijan Robinson. He's going to carry the load in that first year. Got a first-year starter at quarterback, Desmond Ridder, facing the Panthers' defensive front that's a little bit pedestrian against the run. So I'm going with Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons.
I like it. I like it a lot. Low for rushing yards. I'm taking the new starter in Minnesota, Alexander Mattison. He's a capable back, but I'm banking on the Vikings' game plan against Tampa, which I believe is going to be throwing the football with Kirk Cousins. So I'm not anticipating a ton of touches for Madison on the ground. I'm going to take high for receiving yards here, and I like Chris Olave this week with the Saints going up against a pass defense that was last in the league last season. I don't see that changing a whole lot for the Tennessee Titans, especially with Caleb Farley out, so I think Olave can be very productive this week. Who you got for receiving yards on the low end?
On the low end, I'm going to go with another rookie here, Zay Flowers, just like Chris. I'm going to go on the game plan here. I expect the Ravens to be able to run the ball against the league's worst run defense last season. They've made some improvements, sure, but I think Baltimore tests the Texans' run front early and often. I don't think there's going to be a lot of chances for a rookie wide receiver in this game. I think if they do push any adversity, I think the Ravens stick with what they do best. They're going to run it.
All right, those are our high-low picks of the week. Be sure to go to FanDuel.com and make your picks for free for a chance to win $10,000 in total prizes each and every Sunday. Our closing figure this week deals with a bit of AFC East history. Last season, the Bills won their third straight division title and were 5 games clear of the second-place Dolphins. It was the largest divide in the loss column from the first-place team to the second-place team in the AFC East since 2018, when the Patriots went 11-5 to win the division, and their next closest pursuer were the 7-9 Dolphins, 6 games back in the loss column. That's it for this edition. Subscribe on the podcast platform you use so you know when our next episode drops, and as always, when you need to know about the Bills, you need to check Bills by the numbers. For Steve Tasker, I'm Chris Brown. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time, everybody.